What kind of a Neanderthal are you, throwing chairs around, throwing Kevin Owens' expensive furniture around? You know what happens, Goldberg, when you throw chairs around? You want to know what happens? You want to know?
Yeah! Spear! Jackhammer! That's what happens!
You know what? Wait. No. This is my show.
Take your shot, champ!
I'm going to take a shot!
Take it, champ!
Guess what?
Let's go!
Kevin Owens. I'm the WWE Universal Champion!
Welcome, everybody, to 2017. I'm John Pollock, and joining me this year is Wai Ting.
I'm back. I made it.
You made it through the portal.
Made it.
How are you doing?
Whoa, was that a gong? For the portal?
That was my ring.
I don't know the portal came with the gong.
Yeah, that was just our official signal that it's New Year.
We should start every show.
I literally just was ringing in the New Year.
Yeah, wow.
So how was your New Year's, Way?
Not bad. Not bad. Pretty good. That's nice. Yeah, I went to like a house party and just counted down. Typically, that's what people do.
Oh,
yeah,
that's fun.
How was yours?
It was pretty good. I stayed home, got my Chinese food. We watched movies. It was a lot of fun.
What did you end up marathoning this year?
This year, we were watching the Harry Potter films, which I have not seen.
And?
These movies are pretty good. We got up to the third one. The third one was my favorite of the first three because the ending, it's very much like Back to the Future, where Hermione and Harry have to go back in time.
Hold on a second.
This is the third movie. It came out, for Christ's sake, 13 years ago. I don't care.
Seen it.
You're not going to see it then. I'm not ruining the finish, but they have to go back in time and retrace their steps so they can't come into contact with each other, which is right out of Back to the Future. Very similar to the Enchantment Under the Sea dance.
Okay.
So I like this. It was a really elaborate final 30 minutes. I was very impressed.
That's cool. What do they call Harry Potter fans? What is that? Is there like a term? Like, like Trekkies or Star Trek fans?
Potheads.
Ah.
Yeah.
Nice. I like it.
Yep. You came over to my house on Friday. We watched the UFC together.
Yeah. Wow. That seems like forever ago, but yes.
It was a long time ago. It was Friday.
Mm-hmm.
A rare Friday night UFC event.
Usual. But I had a great time.
Yes. Were you surprised with the evening's outcomes?
Not really. I mean, yes and no, because I don't know. I felt like Ronda really could have gone either way. I was certainly surprised with the Cody Garbrandt Dominic Cruz fight, as I'm sure everybody was. But yeah, good night of fights.
Did we watch the final Ronda Rousey fight on Friday night?
I think so. I think
that would be a safe assumption, but who knows?
Yeah.
I didn't know what we were going to see in that fight. I don't think anyone knew.
Did we see the last Edmund Taverdian coached MMA bout?
No, because Travis Brown will be fighting. Oh,
shit. Man. That's right. Wow.
So that footage of Edmund coaching Ronda during that fight,
the audio,
will be in my head for life. And that sign of no.
And then he shouted something in a different language. What did he shout?
I don't know what it was in another language, but clinch,
head movement, head movement.
Listen, this guy takes a ton, and believe me, a lot of it warranted, but I am somewhat amazed at just how much it's his fault for everything. And I think Ronda shoulders the majority of this too. Like if this was such a bad environment, she's an adult that could have got out of this situation. I mean, I by no means would recommend. I mean, we've seen now the track record of Edmund Tarverdian, but it was hardly this guy is this awful coach during her rise to stardom. I think it's just people have figured out Ronda Rousey, and this is probably not the best person to be reinventing yourself with.
Yeah. This coach, you mean? Yes, absolutely. I think he's certainly not deserving of all the criticism. It's funny to, again, you can kind of, like this whole time Ronda's been really, in the build up to this match, she's been very critical of not only the media, but I'd say much of her fan base who she says has turned on her. And I mean, it's it's the internet. Like it's it's just how the public acts. When you're on top, people cheer for you. When you are not doing that well, people don't cheer for you. So I mean, I feel like that's something she has to mature herself enough to just comprehend and accept. But
that's what I'm going to do this year. I'm going to refuse to do any interviews if anyone asks me, and I'm going to cite YouTube commenters as the reason why. No interviews this year.
Yeah, but this really was like the worst outcome, was it not? To happen from this fight.
Yeah, this was really bad. I mean, she was just target practice here for Amanda Nunes. I mean, like you didn't even like you've seen Ronda in other fights before where she's been willing to eat punches in order to clinch and get her opponent to the ground. And I mean, I've rewatched that fight a few times, and you can see a semblance of her trying to, at the weakest form, try and grab Amanda Nunes, but it's just. It was so like she was just rocked instantly. I think immediately once she felt the power that Nunes had, she just realized she's in a different world, and I don't think she had any plan. And just the shots that those women took in those 48 seconds. I mean, my God, I will never forget that look of Ronda just staring up after the fight. Just this look of amazement on her face of what's just happened.
Yeah.
Just no idea.
And like I would say, just as interesting as how she reacted in the fight is her reaction afterwards. And especially coming off of the last one and then coming off of this one, refusing to talk in public. She's somebody who obviously takes losing a lot harder than most competitors. So I feel like, though, you see somebody lose often in the UFC, and they're able to redeem themselves even in a loss. Like, take, for instance, Dominic Cruz, who lost his title, but still showed up at the press conference.
My God, did you watch that thing?
I did, yeah.
Oh,
still showed up at the press conference. And
captivating.
Yeah.
It's just so captivating to watch.
Why don't you recap Dominic Cruz at the press conference?
First of all, it comes out, and it's now the individual press conferences, so it's not as if you have all the fighters out there. It's just one guy with all of the media, and he just stands for the entire time. And the first question was, tough night tonight, Dominic. He's like, why was it a tough night? This is part of fighting. And everything about Dominic Cruz is so cerebral. He breaks it down. He states, I always knew Garbrandt was good. Everything I ever have insulted someone about, I have used facts as my basis for everything I've stated. And then he did a breakdown of his own performance and why he lost, and that Garbrandt used range better and his output was higher, but that also opened him up to all of these shots from Garbrandt. And I just thought this was a masterclass in a guy coming out, addressing a loss. And I don't think this guy, like, he's not the champion, obviously. Yeah. He's lost something. But in terms of perception, this guy may have gained more in my eyes.
Maybe. He also went on to say how he learned from his last loss, or from losing the championship in the past, not to base his identity on being a champion. And that he was still able to enjoy life despite losing the belt and despite being champion. And I just found that really, really interesting. And you compare that to somebody like Ronda Rousey, who's on the other end, the other extreme, who was suicidal legitimately after losing the championship. So I feel like there are a lot of lessons to be taken from these two in regards to professional wrestling and how you would position somebody losing a title run, coming off of it, whether or not you want to position them as a babyface or a heel after a title loss. You have a champion lose a belt. He'll come back the next day and say, you know what? I lost fair and square. Congratulations to the other guy. That's the babyface move. The heel move is to just go away and, not do anything, I guess.
No. You were a bit delayed in finishing Raw tonight, so it left me with some extra time after Raw. So I watched the new show, Bring It to the Table, on the WWE Network.
Yeah, you want a mini review, or can you give a mini review?
I'll share some thoughts because I'll probably never get around to watching another one. It was hosted by Peter Rosenberg with Paul Heyman and JBL, and the concept is very much like Pardon the Interruption, where you have just a whole list of topics that they're just going to go through. And these are quote unquote hot topics on the internet that we are going to discuss with, I guess, JBL and Paul Heyman semi in their on-camera personas and half not. So it's really weird. And Peter Rosenberg, by default, has to play the role of like the WWE fan as kind of the counter, I guess. So, I mean, we had some topics in here, there was one moment I just laughed out loud where they're debating if Raw should be 3 hours or not. And JBL gives his analysis of the WWE's finances and how much television revenue they make and why the third hour of Raw is so important to their overall bottom line. And Rosenberg is just like, he's being forced to give an answer. Do you want it to be 2 or 3? With the implication you're an idiot if you say 2 hours because of this outline by JBL. And Rosenberg's like, I'd prefer if it's 2 hours. I fast forward through Raw a lot. and then they moved on from that.
What's Heyman's argument?
Heyman was, I think, siding here with JB. I mean, they're not going to come out and just say, well, this sucks, it's awful. I mean, there's just such better arguments to, yes, you can argue this fact of the money they make off of Raw, and I wouldn't discredit that. But if you want to get into it, let's look at Raw's audience today versus the 2-hour format 6 years ago and where the audience has eroded in that time period as well. You can go deep down into that. It's just, to me, it's the whole premise is just, there was so much of this, well, some people on the internet say. That must have come up like 5 different times, that use of an argument. And it just came down to people on the internet bitch about everything. And I was just, I was done about 15 minutes into this. It's just, I can't take this. Okay, we're just going to argue against imaginary people on the internet that I'm sure people have argued this on Twitter before. And now we're just going, it's such a weird place to put this on, where it's like your most diehard fan base probably is on the side of some of these arguments, and you're basically the arguments from JBL and Heyman where these people are idiots that argue this stuff. And it's just, I had no desire to get through this show, much less watch it again. And I just find Peter Rosenberg is in the most unenviable position here, where he's just, I don't know. It's just a weird show.
There are a lot.
I would be curious what others' feedback was to the first show, if they saw it.
Yeah, I'm curious. I'll check it out. It seems like, the WWE Network is always in a state of looking for fresh ideas for shows. And I mean, I don't really mean fresh, because it seems like every show idea they have is a WWE version of something that already exists. And in this case, it's Pardon the Interruption. And I mean, we've kind of seen that, like their target audience shift over time. Like I think when they launched, it was like things like The List and like, I don't know, just kind of awfully more generic stuff aimed towards a more mainstream audience. But now they're aiming a lot more towards the internet audience, or at least the quote unquote smart mark. And, it makes sense why they would try a show like this. But I feel like they should not really keep it within the company and really open it up to, more of a news outlet. Bring on Dave Meltzer. Bring on, some actual industry experts to argue against people maybe such as a JBL who want to argue why this actually makes sense. And then maybe have some actual industry insiders who are unbiased and can say honestly how they feel.
I don't think the WWE Network is the right platform for that kind. I don't know. I just don't see the WWE Network having that kind of a focus on things like that, nor the interest, I would say, of anyone that's covering this stuff seriously to even want to be a part of that, would be my guess. I mean, there was one in here about if Goldberg beating Brock cheapened Brock ending the Undertaker's streak, and Heyman's response was, well, what are these people going to do? Are they going to boycott the WWE? No. Well, then screw them. That was about it. That was the argument. And then we had like shots of fans were interviewed at the Air Canada Center right after Goldberg won, where they're arguing about, it kind of hurts the Undertaker's streak by Brock losing here. So, like what this show, I'm sure this was sounded great on paper, but in execution, I was not a fan of this show. But maybe I had a different thought on Raw from Monday night in Tampa, Florida, the first Raw of 2017. Are you ready, Mr. Ting?
Yep, let's do it.
When Ryan's when it's time to begin, it's on the Review-A-Raw with John Pollock and Wai Ting. The 18 that makes sense of these things we see in the ring every week on TV. It's Review-A-Raw for Monday night. Download a Tuesday morning from the Fight Network site. It's Review-A-Raw for Monday night on USA Now on the John and Wai Take the mic.
Are you ready for Mick Foley's new haircut?
No.
Oh. Well, Mick started the show, and he has cut his hair.
No, did this have to do with the surgery?
No. He's delayed his surgery.
Oh, okay.
I mean, he needs this operation, but he doesn't see... I mean, he put this... if you didn't see it, he put out this lengthy statement last week because the news got out that he needed hip replacement surgery, but he doesn't have health insurance right now, so it's a $60,000 operation, and he's delaying it for now until he can figure out his health insurance or whatnot.
Just start a Patreon or whatever. What do you call those?
Well, he doesn't want that being done, and I believe at least one campaign has started to raise funds, and he does not want any kind of GoFundMe or Kickstarter of fans raising money for himself. He's made that clear. But yes, his haircut I don't think had anything to do with...
How about a GoFundMe for a new haircut?
Well, you weren't a fan of the hair?
Were you? Come on.
You know what? I have an interesting story here that ties in with Mick Foley, who over the last year has lost 100 pounds and has been doing DDP yoga. And over the holidays, I mean, my back has been bothering me for some time now. And then over the holidays, there was one night where I stayed at my parents' place and I slept in this bed and woke up the next day. I thought I was crippled. I was like getting up. I was like, I am so sore. And my back has been bothering me for like a week. So this morning, I was going through this stuff in my closet and came across a DDP yoga DVD. And I put this thing in. And for 35 minutes, I did this routine. And I will tell you, 30 minutes after I finished this, I had zero pain. I'm not lying here.
Nice.
I was, wow, very impressed here.
Yeah, that's good. That's awesome. Will you be doing more of this DVD?
Well, if my back hurts again.
No, you got to keep this up.
I'm the oldest 32-year-old out there.
It's not just a one-time thing, you know?
No. You got to do it. It's got to be a routine. It's got to be a lifestyle.
Yeah.
Well, Mick Foley, his hair, we're out here in Tampa, and says that for his New Year's resolution, he's going to write the name of the city on his hand so he never screws it up again like he did the last time we heard from him. And then he goes to say Jacksonville with the crowd shrieking when he laughs and corrects it. And Tampa is actually written on his hand here.
No, it's he's poking fun at his own flub. You
got to be able to laugh at yourself. Yeah. He points to the shark cage at the top of the ramp, and then Kevin Owens is out with Chris Jericho and asks Foley if he thinks he's funny trying to hang Jericho above the ring at the Royal Rumble. Foley and his hair is made fun of by Owens. Jericho calls it a strategic move in how he assisted Owens in retaining his title at Roadblock, which way you and I had a spirited debate about, and here it was. It was flat out referred to as a strategic move.
Okay.
So you outwitted me. They claim Foley has a personal issue with them, and then Foley says, I want to see an edition of the Kevin Owens show. And he makes the segment. This is the first time a talk show was booked on the fly for tonight's main event segment, where Owens' guest will be Bill Goldberg, and that started a Goldberg chant until Stephanie came out, stating that Foley is not abusing his power, as Owens and Jericho have accused, and wishes that Foley ran the shark cage stipulation by her. And then Foley says, well, I wish you had mentioned to me about the last man standing match for tonight. And Stephanie notes that Foley was home for Christmas. Owens then yells about these two, and no one cares about who's consulting who, and he calls himself and Jericho national treasures. Stephanie then books a match with Roman Reigns and Chris Jericho for later tonight for the United States title, and Reigns can lose the title by DQ or countout, and they continue arguing, and Stephanie says she is sick to her stomach that SmackDown beat Raw in the ratings last week, and how Raw is the real land of opportunity, not SmackDown. And then she makes a match with Owens against Rollins, and the loser is banned from ringside for the United States title match. So only one competitor in the title match is going to have the chance to have a run-in on their behalf. Oh, boy. Exciting. And what a stipulation payoff this would be tonight. And that would be our first match. But your assessment of our opening segment.
I thought it was a fine opening segment. I think Jericho and Owens are always entertaining in there. Stephanie, basically came in, played the mom, brought order to the bickering between those two and Mick Foley. And it was
Foley's like the stepdad.
The stepdad, okay.
Yeah, it's like the kids don't really like him, Jericho and Owens.
Right. Okay.
They miss regular dad. Hunter. Hunter would be dad. Cool dad. And Foley's the stepdad they're stuck with. Kevin Owens and Seth Rollins was our non-title match. Did you know, Wai, that Kevin Owens was here in the very first Raw match of 2017. He was also in the first match on Raw in 2016.
I didn't know that. And
I know you don't care, but do you want to guess who he faced 1 year ago?
Seth Rollins.
No.
Chris Jericho.
Neville.
Okay. Yeah.
I guess you won't be impressed either by the fact that Owens was in the first and last match on Raw of last year. No. Rollins dives to the floor early, and Owens takes advantage as they went through the break. Rollins avoided a pop-up powerbomb, hitting an enziguri, and then a cannonball was stopped. He's driven into the turnbuckle, and Seth comes back, hits a sling blade. Pedigree gets blocked by Owens and then sent to the floor. Rollins lands a suicide dive and attacks him by the timekeeper's table, where Owens grabs the ring bell and nails Rollins with it, and Owens gets disqualified. So Rollins wins by DQ, and therefore Owens cannot get involved in the U.S. title match, which I hope is not some trivial finish and that this is actually a calculated plan on Owens' behalf, that he doesn't want Jericho to be the United States champion.
Why? Because you think Owens wants the U.S. title himself?
Owens wants to be the champion of the group. He wants to be the leader. He doesn't want Jericho to be sharing in any of this. He wants Jericho as his muscle, as his ally. He doesn't want him sharing in any of the glory.
That's interesting. I wonder if they'll address that coming out of this finish. I doubt it, though, because I don't think they hinted it at all.
They didn't hint at it at all.
Yeah. But
it was such a blatant disqualification. It should build to something. That should be something that is referenced later when this massive breakup occurs and we can put all the pieces together.
Yeah, perhaps. I found the match a little boring, to be honest. And I think that's largely because it felt like something I had seen many times before. And I don't, yeah.
There's something about these four, all talented, but this combination of Owens, Rollins, Jericho, and Reigns, it's just the one combination in there is the one you have to keep separate for as long as possible in Owens and Jericho.
Yeah, though I'll say I think the freshest of those was the match that we'd see later today. And
they had I thought a very good
match.
I
really enjoyed the Jericho-Reigns match later on.
This one didn't even have, a huge amount of time. It did go through a commercial break. Then there was a SmackDown ad plugging The Miz and Dean Ambrose for Tuesday, along with a contract signing between AJ Styles and John Cena for the Royal Rumble. Cesaro took on Carl Anderson. This featured Sheamus on commentary. We should also mention our fans in Tampa Way.
Yes.
No less than 3 signs that made their way.
Which one was the third? I didn't even see the third.
We had the one in the beginning, which was what was the one with Wai Ting?
Yeah, those signs.
Oh, it's just your name. Yeah. It was just your name on its own. Then we had a cardboard head of me, where I got jokes about how big my head was all night on Twitter. Thank you to all of you. And then in the end, the final segment, Goldberg fears Wai Ting.
Oh my God, I didn't even see that one.
Yes.
That's incredible. Wow. I mean, I feel like these signs will outlive both you and I. I mean, I think these signs will just live forever. They just pop their way up.
Yes, that cardboard head of myself was just the most comical thing ever.
Yeah, so thank you, Bill and Alex, once again.
Cesaro and Carl Anderson. Sheamus was on commentary. We got a bunch of Game of Thrones references from Sheamus and Corey Graves. Cesaro hit this uppercut to Carl Anderson while he was seated, and then Cesaro was distracted on the apron and took this running boot from Anderson because Luke Gallows was in the corner of Anderson. We continue on. Cesaro came back, went for the swing, but Gallows stopped him, and Anderson got a spine buster as Sheamus left the commentary desk to come down to ringside. There was a spinning uppercut off the middle rope by Cesaro, and then Cesaro hit this leaping drop kick and followed with an uppercut. He did like the Okada drop kick to Anderson being seated on the top turnbuckle. Both of them on the top, and Gallows gets on the apron. Sheamus yanks him down, but in doing so, Gallows shakes the ropes, and it causes Cesaro to get crotched. And then Anderson hits this flying neck breaker off the top and pins Cesaro. So Sheamus inadvertently costing his partner the match, and this looks to be our tag title program.
Yeah, it looks like it. And I think it's a good matchup. You know, I feel like they're the challengers that we suspected out of the list. The star power between the four, I think, is quite low right now, but I feel like they can try to resurrect them with good storytelling and with good storyline. So hopefully they can come up with something interesting between these four. I thought the match was cool. He wasn't that strong for it, considering the star power again, but Cesaro, I feel like, continues to impress. Right now in the story, Sheamus is now fully on Cesaro's side. So, they agree that, or Sheamus on commentary was conveying that they don't necessarily see eye to eye all the time, but they certainly are more friends now than ever. So that's kind of where they're at.
Yes, we had gone a step forward in the relationship where they were now getting along, and now we're going back to the dissension with Sheamus costing him the match. So who knows where they'll be next week?
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see if they follow up on that.
Do you see this being a title match at the Rumble, or is this just going to be a TV title match?
If not, then the all four in the Rumble. I see this as a Rumble title match.
They do have 4+ hours, so
yeah.
they could have a tag title match and still be in the Rumble.
Yeah, that's true. But then again, since it's a joint brand pay-per-view, you have titles from both sides, right? So, do all titles get defended now?
They can go as long as they want. They could make the Rumble 18 hours if they wanted to.
What happened?
And JBL would argue why it should be 18 hours.
What happened at Survivor Series?
What do you mean?
Like, how many sets of titles were defended?
Well, we had all the elimination matches, right? So the tag teams were all part of that one match.
So I guess this will sort of be the first time where we're faced with that. I mean, at WrestleMania, Jesus, we're gonna have
book off the next day or two.
8 title matches.
Oh my gosh, I look back as I was doing my best of list. I couldn't put WrestleMania on the list for. I'm looking ahead to like my worst of stuff. I can't call that show like a worst of show, but in terms of a show that just like...
You mean this year or last year's?
Last year's.
Okay.
Like that show, it can't be the worst of the year, but in terms of a show I look back on and it was just like, I would dread the idea of going and reliving that. Like that just to me was like the show that would never end. And I just was like, I couldn't believe it during the last hour. I'm like, this is the biggest show of the year. And I am so spent from watching this show. There's no show that has had that impact on me this year. Like WrestleMania
what about,
it's its own special category.
Wrestle Kingdom is about to happen.
Wrestle Kingdom, I have watched every year, and I can't say I ever have had that feeling. And you're right. And that's a show that is, some years it's been 5 hours. I don't think it'll be quite 5 this year. Probably be 4.5 on Wednesday.
What time on Wednesday? Our time?
It starts early Wednesday morning at 3 a.m.
Okay. Will you be watching live?
I'm not going to watch it live. I'm going to watch it first thing Wednesday morning. And for those of you on the site, Chris and WH are going to that show, and they're going to be doing a Japanese audio wrestling, which will be WH's final show. A very sad occasion. On Friday, recapping Wrestle Kingdom and the next day's New Year Dash show as well. So that'll be on the site Friday.
What a way to go out. He's like Brie Bella retiring at WrestleMania.
He's exactly like
By
that.
the way, that's something I also watched this past weekend. I binged watched. I finally finished Total Bellas and then started Total Divas this season.
Oh, wow.
And I don't know if you're aware or not, but
I'm not.
Michael Chandler makes an appearance in the last episode of Total Bellas.
Oh, they do live in San Diego.
Yeah, because
that's where he's from.
Because Brie Bella, first of all, Daniel Bryan, his depression has gotten really bad, so he hasn't even been able. He hasn't been around.
They would have trained together at Extreme Couture, I would guess.
Michael Chandler.
When Bryan lived in Vegas, that's probably the time when Chandler was in Las Vegas.
Okay.
Because Chandler's left there years ago.
Right. So anyway, Brie Bella is in need to kind of spice things up for her last match at WrestleMania, and in particular, some variation of the Yes Lock that she's looking to perform. And, I feel like a lot of people remember her spot in that final match at WrestleMania in that, 5-on-5 women's match where she had a great entry into the Yes Lock. And this was actually taught to her by the person who taught it to Daniel Bryan. I forget the man's name. He's a grappler.
Neil Melanson?
There you go, yes. And so Neil Melanson, John Laurinaitis, and Brie Bella all have a session.
Oh my God, I'm going to watch this episode.
Michael Chandler is the student that they are practicing on. So
is he identified?
Yes, Michael Chandler, wow. MMA fighter, making an appearance on Total Bellas. So
they don't say Bellator fighter, do they?
No, I don't think so. I believe it was
fucking Bellator lightweight champion.
Yeah, they did say that.
John Pollock's knockout of the year in 2016.
In fairness, how many people watching would be familiar with Bellator versus the term MMA?
Well, I mean, this is Total Bellas, right? Not Total Divas?
Total Bellas, yeah.
So this aired weeks and weeks ago, and this is the first I have heard about Michael Chandler being on this show, so it got zero mention afterwards, unless I totally just spaced out. This is what a interesting mix of worlds here. Did you like Total Bellas?
Yes, I did. Overall, I really enjoyed it, and I think largely it was because of all the connections to Cena, to Bryan. You even learn a little bit about John Laurinaitis. I felt like it was really the perfect timing for a lot of this to happen because of Nikki's injury, because of Brie's retirement. So many things were going on in their lives that it made for some good television for 6 episodes. So I recommend it. I think there are a lot of things that I'm kind of tired of with the traditional American reality TV formula. That those are some of the issues I have with some of the over the top editing and some of the overly scripted things that probably take place. But all in all, I still found it an enjoyable and entertaining view.
Very interesting.
Yeah.
Then there was a recap of Bill Goldberg's win over Brock Lesnar at Survivor Series and Goldberg entering the Rumble. Such a historical series of events that it led to Dan Lavransky doing a 180 on Bill Goldberg.
Wow.
Getting many mentions on his best of list, which you can listen to now at liveaudiowrestling.com, including this Today Way. We got a number of thank yous from some of the winners, including Matt Hardy.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
It's a big deal to be named best of on the law.
Yes. He was very thankful, but he disputed winning best gimmick, asking what this gimmick is that we speak of. Then we had Sami Zayn against Braun Strowman in a last man standing match. So this match began with Zayn using a kendo stick repeatedly, and then he tried to lure Strowman in on the ground into a moonsault off the barricade, but was caught and thrown into the barricade. This was a match of Strowman just murdering Zayn and Zayn coming back and having to use weapons and anything he could get his hands on to subdue the giant.
Sometimes it was actually Zayn murdering Strowman. I mean,
yeah,
dude.
Like the welts on his back looked awful from these kendo stick shots, and then further the chair shots that he just laid in, thankfully to the back. We're not insane like Lucha Underground and doing shots to the head.
No, but I mean, the guy didn't pull back at all on these shots, and I'm sure that was, agreed upon by both men. A lot of stiff shots here from both of them.
Zayn went for his tornado DDT under the middle turnbuckle and got caught with this right hand and just dropped to the floor. It's all Strowman. They fight up to the desk area, and then into the backstage they go. Zayn is fighting back with this, what looked to be a plastic pipe, and then Strowman lifts Zayn with this beal onto a bunch of equipment cases and then throws one of these cases at Zayn. This is when Zayn comes back with the chair shots and they go back into the arena area. And Corey Graves blames Mick Foley for teaching younger kids like Sami Zayn to never give up. And it's his fault that this beating is occurring. Zayn then kicks these chairs into Strowman, does this running cross body that takes both of the men off the stage through a table on the floor. They get up before the count of 10. Zayn continues with chair shots, and then Strowman's on the stage, lifts Zayn up by the chair he's holding, and just throws him down the ramp from this. He hits a running power slam on the floor. Zayn gets up. Then he's kneeing him in the chest, hits him with forearms. He stops the count, hits another running power slam on the floor, and he stands over top Zayn's dead body as the 10 count is made. Braun Strowman wins as Michael Cole compares this to The Rock and Mankind from the Royal Rumble in 1999, which is one of the sickest WWF matches you will watch. This was hardly that, but this was the best match of Braun Strowman's career, I thought.
Yeah, I think I might agree with that. Yeah, I think so. This was
the list is not long, but this certainly, I mean, these two have great chemistry together.
They do.
And pairing him with Sami Zayn, I think, has been very much of a wise choice. And this was booked in a way with the last man standing match that you could book around Strowman's weaknesses. And I thought this was well done. Yeah,
and I feel like this entire run of his on Raw has been booking around his weaknesses to the point now where it's hard for me to tell where the weaknesses are because he's only been booked as a monster. Much like last week, you have a great roster now of very light baby faces who are so great at playing the underdog, working around Braun, and Braun taking all that punishment and just playing that great brick wall for these guys to try to break down. I think he's been doing a great job, and I think he deserves that credit. And of course, Sami Zayn, is tremendous as well. So it looks like Braun is moving on from this for now, but I would expect Zayn to maybe continue and come back and face Braun, perhaps even at the Rumble match itself. I mean,
so just don't book Braun to heavily sell. Or like last week, run.
Yeah.
Things that we learn. Foley comes down with a stretcher, and they're helping Zayn, and then Strowman tips over the stretcher and continues to attack Zayn, and he gets tossed into the barricade, and then he yells, "Ashes to ashes, dust to dust." He also doesn't need to be speaking.
Yeah, the speaking is a tough part, because last week was certainly a bit detrimental, I'm multitasking. That'll be a reference attached to him for a while. That's his suffering succotash, I'd say. I think his talking, he still comes across a little goofy to me. Do you put him with a manager, or do you let him develop that side of himself?
I think the go-to of everyone would be Heyman, and I don't want to see. I think Strowman's doing okay as this monster, and I don't think you have to have this hard and fast rule that you have to be able to cut this promo. Like, everyone's different.
Yeah.
Monsters don't need to be cutting eloquent promos or doing 10-minute opening segments. And everyone should be different. Not everyone should be that promo guy. So I think Strowman, he has vastly exceeded my expectations, and forcing him into these speaking roles, especially comedic in nature like last week, that's just counter to this character. So
he should just grunt.
That's it. He's a monster. That's it. Very simple. What do you foresee as his outcome in the Royal Rumble?
Well, I think he'll get the giant spot. Yes, he'll probably get the most eliminations. Actually, I mean, I see a face-off with Brock. That should be huge. And I don't see him. Oh man, could he win? Could he win?
I think he's got to take out someone really important, and it even could be. I was trying to think of, like, because you have that February pay-per-view.
Yeah.
And I could have seen them going with, like, Reigns and Strowman as your in-between show, but Reigns won't even be in the Rumble.
Yeah.
I feel he can, even if you don't give him like, you could easily do he eliminates 15 guys, but I think it's kind of key that he eliminates someone really important that can be a program for him, either for Mania or at least in between Mania.
Yeah. I see Sami Zayn coming back in and perhaps costing him an elimination if they want to continue with that program. Part of me wonders if they will put Brock and Strowman and Goldberg all in there at the same time, or if they'll keep all of them separate, because you have a lot more giants, it seems, this year in the Rumble than previous years. So maybe you don't want to have one necessarily eliminate the other, or at least take the spotlight from the other. So I think that a lot of possibilities and a lot of opportunities. I'd say a lot of contenders for winning the Rumble this year. So it'll be an interesting one.
They recapped last week's duel with Jack Gallagher and Ariel Daivari, and the only involvement of Jack Gallagher on this show was backstage teaching the New Day how to use umbrellas as weapons, which the New Day then started rotating their hips, and Gallagher just left.
It's nice that they're at least incorporating the cruiserweights into some of these backstage vignettes with some of the rest of the roster. For the longest time, it feels like they're just, the cruiserweights have been a separate part of the show, never interacting with anybody else. So, something like this was cool. It shows that they have the faith in somebody like a Jack Gallagher.
The New Day came out, and we were in Tampa, so Izzy the superfan was there at ringside, and she was so excited when Kofi gave her a high five. Woods then said that 2016 was a good year. There were ups and downs, and it was the year where they became the longest reigning tag team champions, and then they announced that the three of them are in the Rumble match. Titus's voice, Titus O'Neil, his voice comes over the loudspeaker doing the mocking of the New Day's introduction. He comes out dancing, and he wants to be the newest member of the group. He says he has rhythm, he's got musical talent, as he goes to grab the trombone, which Woods says no one touches but him, and then wants to be on the Bootios box, but Woods says that people just want to see you on the side of a milk carton, and Titus then calls it a strong joke coming from the weakest link of the New Day as they set up a match between these two.
Yeah,
I will say Titus certainly gave it his all in trying to mimic the New Day here in this segment.
I thought this was actually really good. As far as one segment builds to matches go, I thought they did pretty much as good as they could have done. Titus here, was given the spotlight for the first time in a long, long time on live television, and I thought he delivered. He showed good charisma and confidence, and I thought Xavier was great too. The storyline with him being the weak link, I think, has a lot of potential. So, I thought it was well written and well delivered from these two.
By the end, when Titus was twerking and stuff, the crowd was actually getting into Titus doing all this stuff. And, I mean, doing that New Day entrance is not the easiest thing either, but he kind of he projected well. Xavier took on Titus. It wasn't a super long match. Titus is sent to the floor, and then Woods hit a Tope Con Hero. And then, did you catch this Hogan chant?
No, I didn't.
Okay, it wasn't super loud, but I've got eyes and ears everywhere, Way. Mm-hmm. And you may have noticed in the earlier part of the show, there was the Hulk Hogan fan facing the hard camera. He was in the front row, dressed as Hogan. He's a regular at shows in Florida. So apparently, someone alerted me that he was removed from his section facing the hard camera. And people were really annoyed at this. And then he was brought back. And that's what you heard during this match as they're chanting Hogan as he was brought back not facing the hard camera.
Wow. Interesting.
This seemed to make no sense to me.
Yeah, but it does.
Well, once you turn on Bring It to the Table, and one of the topics is, will Hulk Hogan ever be back in the WWE? I think we can allow fans to be dressed up as Hulk Hogan.
Is that what it was? Wow, I didn't know that. Yeah, that does not make sense.
Back in the ring, Titus lifted Woods, and then Woods used a sunset flip for the victory over Titus O'Neil.
See, that I didn't get. I didn't get that finish at all. It was just a typical sunset flip. Were there any shenanigans at all?
No.
It was just a real sunset flip. To me, I thought actually Titus should have gotten the win, by cheating, whatever. I feel like they could run with this whole Xavier Woods being the weak link of the group storyline, and at the same time push Titus along a little bit. Instead, this kind of felt like it was a 1 week throwaway thing.
Stephanie is then backstage with Bayley, or should I say Daniel, asks how she made... What? I was making a Daniel Bryan reference because that's what Bayley is now playing.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
She asks Stephanie how she could have made Dana Brooke the referee last week after expunging her win over Charlotte. And Stephanie says she doesn't expect Bayley to understand. It's above her pay grade and didn't want Bayley to be on Raw. It was Foley's call to draft you or I guess call her up, whatever. Doesn't see Bayley as the flagship of the division and puts over Charlotte as being a larger-than-life superstar, while Bayley is just ordinary. You're just Bayley. Bayley says she doesn't have a famous last name or grew up in the business like Stephanie and Charlotte did, but she belongs in the WWE and on Raw, and that being Bayley is good enough for her, and nothing is going to stop her from achieving her dreams. And Stephanie makes a number 1 contenders match for tonight with Bayley against Nia Jax, and the winner will face Charlotte at the Rumble. Bayley walks off as Stephanie is humming the "Hey, we want some Bayley" song, and then under her breath calls it a stupid song.
Isn't it? Are you going to be? Will you be my girl? Isn't it? Isn't that the Bayley
that was
song?
A separate song.
Oh, okay. So
because originally it was the "Hey, we want some New Day," a takeoff of the of the song that they will probably never sing the actual lyrics on broadcast television, and then the NXT crowd started singing this one, and then the UK crowd started the other one.
Gotcha. Yeah, I think the typical character that Steph plays is the exact type of foil Bayley needs. Steph here is basically playing the perception the internet's made up of what Vince McMahon feels about anybody who doesn't look like a bodybuilder or a model. And Steph is embodying that as a character against Bayley, who is not a model. And, the typical underdog who doesn't look like everybody else, but yet perseveres through hard work. So I thought Steph was great. But I thought Bayley's retort to Steph I found a little weak. I know she has to kind of like have the tone and personality of a little kid, but I thought in a scene like this she really needed to show a bit more passion and fire in her voice, and I didn't feel it at all. To me, it just kind of felt like she was just, I don't know, reading lines or just kind of brushing it off, like it wasn't that important to her what Steph said.
Was Bayley the Meek Mill of this interaction?
I wouldn't go that far. She still has a career after this, so.
Oh. Yeah. Unlike so many of the guys that Stephanie will just run down, this is one that if this dynamic between these two just grows and grows, it can at least lead to something physical.
Yes.
Where Bayley can hit the Bayley to belly on her, and that would be a giant reaction if this built up for months. Whereas when this happened with Daniel Bryan or any of the baby faces, Stephanie was never going to get that physical retribution that could be the big pop, the crescendo to the babyface finally snapping on the authority figure.
Yeah, absolutely.
Noam Dar is backstage. There were a lot of cruiserweights flown into this show for very little, including Noam Dar, who goes up to Cedric and Alicia backstage stating it's a new year and a new him, and apologizes to Cedric, who says you need to be apologizing to Alicia. And he apologizes to Alicia and then calls her sweet cheeks. And Cedric gets upset, but not enough to go after this guy. He just leaves because Cedric has a match and Alicia wants him to be calm. Cedric Alexander took on the chauvinist. They shook hands at the beginning, and Gulak then headbutted him in the chest and scoop slammed him onto the ropes, applied an octopus hold as Alexander got a rope break, and then Alexander came back, spinning back elbow, handspring into an enziguri, and then Tony Nese, who was in a suit on the floor, got onto the apron and was pulled down by Alicia Fox, and Alexander was so distracted by this that Gulak rolled him up with a schoolboy and grabbed the trunks for the win in 2:27.
Yes. So, A pretty cold, nothing match, I felt. What I want to know is what this means for the Drew Gulak misogynist character.
It means he's proving himself right, that women are a major distraction here and they have no place.
But a woman helped him win. The distraction helped him win.
Inadvertently.
Oh, directly helped him win.
Well, I mean, it was more so Tony Nese outsmarting Alicia Fox and by extension Cedric.
Okay.
I think Drew Gulak in his mindset, he's going to credit Tony Nese instead of Alicia Sweet Cheeks.
Yeah, I'm actually just a lot more interested in what's happening with Drew Gulak and Tony Nese.
We need some we need some vignettes on Drew Gulak at home.
Yeah, and why is Tony Nese in a suit all of a sudden?
We don't know anything about Tony Nese.
No, last we heard he was unhappy with the ring conditions of 205 Live and the WWE. So I guess he's a man with exquisite taste. Is that it? He needs nice rings, nice suits. Is that it?
Yeah, we're just gonna create all this
sure.
This whole backstory for Tony Nese because they're not going to give us anything at this point. Roman Reigns and Chris Jericho is next for the United States title. So after all that, Rollins isn't even in this guy's corner.
Well, they're supposed to be good guys, so that's sort of, expected, isn't it?
I guess.
And also
it's like, what were we fighting over earlier?
But also the rule is that if Roman gets DQ'd, he loses the belt. Was that it?
Yeah. Wouldn't you want someone there to make sure you stay cool and you don't get outsmarted as he nearly did here in the match? With a DQ leading to a title change?
So, I guess.
I mean, if Rollins had been there, it would be really easy for him to just get the ref's attention and say, hey, this dude's fucking with you.
But I feel like it also would have been a liability, for Reigns to have to keep track of Rollins. Because, they're buds now, but you can't 100% trust Seth Rollins.
Yeah, maybe Cedric gave Roman the heads up. Like, listen, keep your fling on a string.
Ooh, keep your dog on a string. How about that?
That was my Dominic Cruz quote from last week. The crowd is cheering for Jericho, not surprisingly, and they teased a count out early on with, of course, stipulation in place, but Reigns made it back. Reigns fired up. He went for a spear, got kicked in the face, and then the code breakers blocked. Jericho then hit a Hurricane Rana and applied the walls. Reigns got out of that. Jericho goes to the top, comes off into a Superman punch. Jericho kicks out of that. Then Jericho gets up, he sidesteps a spear, going for the walls, which gets blocked, and then Reigns runs shoulder first into the post, missing Jericho. Jericho then takes off the turnbuckle padding, and as the referee goes to check on this exposed turnbuckle, which he never was able to fix, Jericho grabs the title from the floor, behind the ref's back, tosses it to Roman Reigns, doing the Eddie Guerrero spot as he falls down, pointing at Reigns, and the ref catches Reigns. And in this confusion, Jericho hits a code breaker for a great near fall. This crowd totally bought into the idea that Roman Reigns will get screwed here.
Yeah, this was
kicked
awesome.
out.
Yeah, this was great.
And then Jericho is kicking away at Reigns in the corner, runs at him, misses Reigns, and runs into the exposed buckle, eats a spear, and Reigns wins. I thought this was a really well put together match, and I love that Jericho's master plan of exposing the turnbuckle bit him in the ass in the end. And the whole challenge of this match was getting people to believe that Roman Reigns would lose, because I don't think anyone believes he will lose at this point, especially on TV. And I thought they achieved it with that one near fall.
Yeah, I agree. It was a very good match. I thought match of the night, as good as that Strowman Zayn match was. Lots of fun, a lot of surprises, and the use of the Eddie Guerrero spot in this situation made total sense. See, I'm watching it, and it was really interesting to watch how Jericho was wrestling, because he came across like a real babyface to me. That Eddie Guerrero spot is a babyface spot. And so it's interesting to see how he's kind of playing the character now, kind of teetering between wrestling as a babyface, but still getting you to hate him by the end of the match, which I feel like he managed to do. I mean, certainly the guy appeared in the last segment and managed to get booed. So it's really interesting to see how he can get cheered so much in the match, but still get booed coming out of it.
Then we continued on, and there was a shot of Goldberg's dressing room. Brian Kendrick versus TJ Perkins was up next, and Kendrick charged away at the bell as Neville is watching backstage. Kendrick then leaped to the floor and pulled Perkins by the arm and led to Perkins bouncing off the ropes. Perkins blocked a sliced bread, hit a springboard Rana off the top, and then Kendrick caught him, went for the sliced bread, but was caught on Perkins' shoulders. He hit the detonation kick into the knee bar, tapped him out in 2 minutes and 40 seconds, and we cut back to Neville, again watching this, with an even more upset look on his face. And that was Neville's involvement tonight.
The match tomorrow night is Neville versus Perkins.
Yes.
Right. I'm sensing Kendrick moving further down the card now that Neville has become the top heel in the division. It seems like they're delaying the inevitable Swan-Neville rematch. In my opinion, Neville probably winning that championship till a little further on. And, in the meantime, they're warming up TJ. But that seems like your mix right now. Swan, Neville, Perkins.
And Kendrick is the man without a plan.
Mm.
They showed a video for the UK tournament, which is quickly approaching in 2 weeks. Another Emelina promo, which is just a running gag at this point. Then Big Cass was taking on Rusev and Jinder Mahal. This was announced during the day as a tag match involving these two, but now Enzo's injured, so he couldn't compete in this tag match. So instead, Cass was going to go it alone, and I don't even know why this took place. Cass comes out and just says he's going to drop both of them. The highlight of this was Corey Graves comparing Enzo to Krang from Ninja Turtles as the guy that talks all this shit, and then the big guy's got to deal with the problems and the fallout.
Yeah, but Krang was the big guy, wasn't he?
Krang was the little...
He's the brain.
The brain.
Inside the giant robot.
Yeah.
Yeah, so he was one, essentially.
Well, kind of. So Rusev and Mahal try to double-team Cass, and there's a big boot delivered to Rusev. Jinder goes down and slaps Enzo in his wheelchair, and Cass chases after him. Cass then knocks Mahal off the apron and turns around into a running boot from Rusev, and Rusev pins Cass in 1:46. And, I'm not saying Cass is the biggest priority, but when you look at guys that they certainly go out of their way to protect, I just don't know why this was needed. It was rushed, it was quick, and I would never want to just trivialize someone like Cass losing.
It was a handicap match, though.
That's
their thinking.
This just felt like, why was this even on the show? Like, this could have just been a promo to set up this match for next week. It was just like one of 9 matches on this show, and it was just nothing.
They need a presence on the show, and that's probably why. And they have too many weeks of TV to lead up to the program. That's the problem, I guess.
And I would have just had a brawl, and I wouldn't have pinned Cass in this. I guess that's more I had no problem with the match. It's so much as just beating Cass for no reason. I don't know.
Yeah, Enzo can only lose so many times, I guess.
They promoted Tajiri's return for 205 Live, along with Neville and Perkins for Tuesday. And then Bayley took on Nia Jax in a number 1 contenders match with Charlotte on commentary, and they recapped Nia's attack on Sasha from 2 weeks ago. Jax was in control at the start. I have no idea what happened here in the middle because Sportsnet 360 had these awful technical problems.
I thought that was just me, so I kept restarting my PVR. But yeah.
No, it was... the ticker was still going fine, so I think this was just the actual feed of Raw from Tampa that was just a mess, so we couldn't see much of this. Jackson lays out Bayley, climbs the turnbuckle when Sasha's music hits and she comes out in a knee brace, and Nia was frozen. She was like in carbonate here, just stuck on the second turnbuckle watching this as Bayley came up, hit the Bayley to belly, and pinned Nia Jax in 3:22, and Sasha helped Bayley get up.
Yes.
You know what? All of these guys, sorry to interrupt, have to listen to Tyson Kidd. And they got to wear headphones, not just for their entrance, but during the match. So they can use noise-canceling headphones to eliminate theme songs from costing them career opportunities because it's happening to too many guys and women.
It's a real problem. It's a
big problem, and none of these people are learning. I mean, and they just look like morons.
More importantly, I would like somebody to investigate how exactly these people are getting their music played as soon as they walk out. Surely it's the audio.
Like, honestly, the production person should be called to task on this. If this was legit, you're tampering with someone's career here.
In the middle,
where there is,
if in the middle of a UFC match, you say Ronda Rousey versus Amanda Nunes, and then all of a sudden,
Chris Cyborg,
Joan Jett, yeah, what's her theme song? What's her theme song?
Not a very synonymous one.
Domo Arigato, Mr. Roboto. All of a sudden that plays, and then Chris Cyborg is out at the entrance. That's terrible. The guy would get fired.
Yeah. I mean, Cody Garbrandt actually did the robot during his match with Cruz. Anyway.
Yeah.
Anyway.
It is our criticism is that please
be careful. We might be a subject on Bring It to the Table.
No, our criticism is that
some people say that this finish is overdone. Well, they're idiots.
Are they going to still watch? Well, then they don't matter. Listen, the segment seemed to get a good reaction. I can't comment on the match because I didn't see most of it. But Bayley seems to be gaining some traction, I feel, and I think they're doing a good job with her. It's a similar story that they're telling with Braun and Zayn. But I see no problem with that. I think David versus Goliath works. And, let's stay the course and see what happens.
They announced that next week on Raw in New Orleans, The Undertaker and Shawn Michaels will be on the show. Shawn Michaels is promoting a new WWE Films project, The Resurrection of Gavin Stone.
Yeah, he's got an actual, a real role in this.
Yeah, he plays an ex-con.
Is this a straight-to-video or a theatrical release?
I'm on the Wikipedia, and the poster, it says theatrical release poster.
Okay. I assume a limited run.
Yeah. As a former child star, now a washed-up celebrity, pretends to be a person of faith so he can portray Jesus in a passion play being produced by a megachurch.
Okay, I'm curious. I'm curious to see how Shawn could act.
Yes.
Yeah. What's the latest on him? And is he training at NXT now?
I mean, he was there. I don't know how regularly he is there. And in terms of The Undertaker, I think there's a good shot he ends up in the Rumble.
Right. I thought he was Raw or SmackDown, I mean.
He's Raw next week.
Gotcha.
So, yeah. Is that your assumption too? Taker in the Rumble?
I think he'll have some role in the Rumble. And is there a matchup for him of all the people remaining? Probably.
I think it'll just be his announcement. He's in the Rumble. He doesn't have a program going, and that's a good place to put him.
Right.
And it's another, candidate that you could make an argument to win the entire thing. Mm-hmm. So that should be next week. And they're in New Orleans, which, as Pro Wrestling Sheet had reported on Sunday, it's expected next week they will be announcing WrestleMania returning to New Orleans. And I was told that announcement would happen next Tuesday. So either Monday or Tuesday would make sense given they're in the city next week.
It's only 5 years? 4 years?
4 years in between.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's pretty brief. I mean, I'm not complaining. I think New Orleans was one of the better towns to have a Rumble.
Yes. Kevin Owens
Mania, sorry.
Yeah. Kevin Owens and Chris Jericho come out for the final segment, and the Kevin Owens show set features a lawn chair for the guest and some dude wearing a Kevin Owens t-shirt with a Kevin Owens show sign covering his face. And at some point he disappeared during all of this.
I love this.
He was there for the beginning.
I love this. I wonder who this guy was. It wouldn't be great if 1 week, he comes every week there's a guy, and then 1 week it's like The Rock, but he doesn't tell anybody. It's just like an inside joke. Or if it's Vince.
Owens says the first guest doesn't need an introduction. He dominated the Attitude Era, redefined greatness, and only needs to stand in the ring for fans to chant his name, Chris Jericho.
Mm-hmm.
Jericho then cuts a promo putting Tampa Bay on the list for chanting Jericho. Jericho then announces that he is the third entrant in the Royal Rumble, which kind of no love given for the New Day and their announcement.
Oh, right.
He would be the sixth entrant. Owens does not look happy at this announcement that Jericho is entering the Rumble. Owens says, what if you win? We'd have to face each other at WrestleMania. And Jericho says, well, then we'll stay champion, and thinks this is a brilliant idea. Owens does not think so and doesn't want to fight his best friend. But before they can continue this argument, Goldberg starts his entrance. I guess this is the seed they wanted to plant for the Rumble, and gives a reason to argue for Jericho in the Rumble as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm quite impressed with the number of legit candidates they have this year already.
Goldberg starts his entrance, and Goldberg says that Jericho is first in the Rumble that he's going to go after. Owens then tells him to take a seat, and Goldberg takes this lawn chair and just tosses it behind him. He takes off his jacket, and while he's doing this, he's got the microphone in his mouth. And Jericho teases putting Goldberg on the list.
You know how nasty that is?
That's probably a lot of sweat from all night long.
Gross. Ugh.
Yeah. I wonder if they sanitized that thing between segments.
He might be out of the Rumble, man. I mean, who knows what he might catch.
Oh, boy. So he threatens Owens and Jericho with a spear and a jackhammer. And then Owens gets in his face asking if he's supposed to be scared because you tossed some furniture, which leads him to toss the table and chairs to the floor himself and starts yelling at Goldberg. And I thought this was great between these two.
It really was. And in particular, I'm really impressed that they had Owens stand up to Goldberg like this, because I feel like in years past, whenever there's a new champion who's not necessarily been booked the strongest, I guess Owens has sort of been booked pretty well. But I know what you mean. Like they would have him cower in the situation, and instead he went toe to toe with Goldberg, cowering against the superstar, whether it be The Rock or whoever whoever's returning from the past. But you had Owens make a point to stand up and seem like an equal next to Bill Goldberg.
I will say this, that it's a long way away, but just looking at this visual here, and Owens totally has a huge babyface run in him at some point down the road.
Yes.
I think he'll be a fantastic babyface one day, but that doesn't need to be anytime soon. So they're yelling, and then all of a sudden Paul Heyman comes out and said, "What are you guys going to do, boycott?" And he points to the back, insinuating Lesnar's here, but then announces he's not. And he has a spoiler for the Royal Rumble and says it will go eat, sleep, elimination, repeat. And he says this over and over. And Goldberg says he's going to take care of his client, and then he's got a date with either Owens or Reigns at WrestleMania. Owens calls him delusional. Then Roman Reigns comes out in fear of Wai Ting and says that Owens and Jericho aren't winning anything at the Rumble, and looks at Goldberg, and they have a stare down. And I've got to say, I think that they booked this and thought this would be this incredible scene of these two monsters. And I was so much more interested in Goldberg and Owens than this stare down. And I think the audience felt the same.
I don't know. I feel like the reaction that these two got, Roman and Goldberg together, was pretty strong. That's the sense I got. But
I don't want to say it was nothing, but it was not at what I figured it would be. I thought this would be like a giant buzz of this being a possibility coming out of the Rumble, and I just didn't quite feel that here. So Braun Strowman comes out, and he says he's winning the Rumble match. So our latest entrant, he enters the ring with Reigns and Goldberg as Jericho and Owens is taken off, and then Reigns and Goldberg give each other a look, and they do a double spear to Strowman, and Reigns nods his head at Goldberg and exits the ring as Goldberg poses and then takes a bunch of photos with kids at ringside to end the show.
Right, yeah. See, I guess that's sort of your natural matchup here. Both guys do the spear. They're both kind of booked to look a bit unstoppable. Judging Goldberg's appearance on this show compared to his last return, I guess it's not really a fair comparison because his last return was a legit return in a long, long time. But this time, I didn't feel like Goldberg came across as likable here. Not nearly as likable as he was against Lesnar. And maybe that's because this crowd is so for Owens and Jericho that, you had Owens and Jericho who have a much more kind of a intelligent, almost Dominic Cruz-like intelligence in their trash talking, compared to Bill Goldberg, who essentially comes out and plays this
Cody Garbrandt,
brainless, goofy jock who really has nothing to say but just looks intimidating. And you had Owens here standing up to him using words. He's a smaller man, but yet stands up to this big, tough guy using words. And I would say Goldberg almost came across looking like a goofy heel jock here. So I didn't feel like his reaction in this segment was as strong as it was up against Brock, where he played the underdog.
I was worried that Goldberg was going to have some line about Owens and just make fun of his weight, and I was glad he didn't, because that would have totally healed Goldberg.
Oh my God, especially with all the stuff he wants to do for kids. I mean, he can't do stuff like that. No.
Well, it's just such an easy line to use that it would have been definitely would have hurt his babyface stock. So I was glad that wasn't a line thrown in here.
See, but yeah, like I mean, that's the thing. If you're trying to push Goldberg as a big baby face against Brock Lesnar again, setting up that rematch, I don't know if you want to put him up against the Kevin Owens, because I feel like in that matchup you're going to have people booing Goldberg, at least the hardcores.
So what did you think of this show altogether? They set up a lot for the Rumble.
Yeah, I thought it was pretty decent Raw. I thought you had two very good matches in Zayn versus Strowman, and also Jericho and Reigns. Both excellent matches worth going out of your way to watch, and plenty set up for the Rumble. And nothing that really drags. So yeah, I liked Raw actually this week.
Still would have been a lot more digestible in 2 hours.
Yes,
I'll say.
Yes.
Let's go to the feedback from the Law message board, lawradio.proboards.com. Mark from Vaughan writes, the last segment came off flat. I like that KO didn't just cower to Goldberg, but the interactions were awkward. Bring It to the Table's format was fresh, but too many of the topics ended up as a defense of WWE's stances, which is to be expected. And that in and of itself is kind of the shortfall to me of the format.
Did they do that live or?
No, it was taped.
So that's probably what Heyman was there for, right?
I don't know when this was taped. I don't think it was taped like today.
Oh, okay.
I'm sure. I mean, this was definitely, there were a lot of production elements to this. So it was probably done some time back, I would guess. He asks, what do you think 2017 holds for the New Day? They move a ton of merchandise, but Big E has a singles run in him.
See, I feel like they would be on their way towards a heel run already at this point, but I guess the merch is so good, why ruin a good thing? And I don't think, judging by the crowd reaction tonight, that the crowd's even sick of them. So I'd like for them to continue as a team, as a babyface team, but just adding depth to the dynamics of the team. And I feel like one of those things, like perhaps an Xavier Woods weak link storyline, is somewhere they could go to keep this whole thing going.
Yeah, I think they could definitely go that direction where one of them, particularly Big E, wins a singles title.
Yeah, that could be interesting. I also feel like they need some actual threats. Maybe you move Big E up as a singles, or maybe you just put a bunch of singles heels together for them to face. But as it stands, there's not that much competition for these guys.
I hope Big E gets a decent showing in the Rumble, like not the crazy monster spot, but some focus. And Kofi's going to get his big near elimination spot.
We go to Paul from New Jersey, who says, I really enjoy Steph, but the emasculation is so out of hand. I was at the show live tonight, and the opening segment seemed like a bit of a flubbed mess. I don't really understand Foley's role, much less enjoy it. The loser of Owens Rollins will be banned from ringside. Sounds like WCW 2000 booking.
That's for another show to discuss.
Yeah. Which this weekend, Friday is the edition.
Yeah, we should go over the schedule this week, because Wai is actually on vacation this week, so he's taking time out of his week off to join us tonight and for Review-A-Smackdown. But we're not going to be doing Review-A this Friday, so Keep It 2000, episode 2 will run this Friday, and then starting this Friday is when we will start the bi-weekly schedule. So Review-A next week, and from so on and so forth from there. It will be bi-weekly, alternating between Keep It 2000 and Review-A.
A double dose of Keep It 2000 to get them started off, because God help them. And they did. Episode 1 was fantastic. I listened to it today. Brian, Nate, they do a ton of research into the history. It brought me back to an era of Limp Bizkit and Santana and the Y2K bug.
All right, we next go to Lay from West Palm Beach. Hello, Grandmaster Wrestling podcaster Wai Ting, bows his head, and John. I saw Wai Ting and John Pollock heads in the crowd by the entrance ramp. I like the Jack Gallagher video package. We need more of those, and we need more interactions between the cruiserweights and the main roster. Some very nice maneuvers in the TJ Kendrick match. When the storylines suck, I can always appreciate a difficult maneuver. And he asks, which NXT talents do you think will enter the Royal Rumble?
Actually, Ty Dillinger at number 10, I think, has been brought up, and I think that'd be a great way.
I think it's been suggested too much.
You think so? Okay, amongst the hardcores, but don't you think number 10 would be booed if it wasn't Ty Dillinger?
Maybe they'll debate this next time. They'll take it to the table. Ty Dillinger at number 10.
Some people on the internet feel this would be a great idea. Well, are they going to stop ordering the WWE Network if he's still in NXT? You're still getting him in NXT. Shut up. But certainly Samoa Joe has been, the other rumored name.
Actually, okay, I've thrown a lot at this Take It to the Table show. But one point that Heyman did make was he didn't want to see any surprises from NXT in the Rumble. He feels that the Nakamura's and the Joes, they should all be promoted to make them feel bigger. And I agree with them. I don't think any of those guys should be surprise entrants. If you're going to put Joe in the Rumble, announce it next week, and it's weeks of build that he's coming to the Rumble, and we don't know which brand he'll be on.
That is a good point.
Yep.
If you're not going to have the guy win the thing, why have him come out and lose on his first show?
Yeah, I would only be putting Joe in the Rumble if he was going to be featured significantly and not just trivially, just a trivial in and out.
What if he's given a major elimination? Let's say an Undertaker.
Sure, that's great if there's a purpose for it, but just to be in it is not substantial for anyone you want to have some legs with beyond, a Ty Dillinger, sure. I mean, he's not going to be a massive pushed guy when he's called up. I mean, he's going to have his spot, and that's it.
See, my argument for Ty Dillinger is that if you don't do something like that at the Rumble, when I feel like his stock is higher than ever right now, do you lose the opportunity? You can't get this back next year, I don't think. I don't think he'll be as hot next year, in my opinion. So is this the perfect time for the perfect 10?
He could have showed up at that Bound for Glory that year in 2010 where it took place on 10-10-10. And that was the promotion. Yeah.
Time travel.
Missed that one, didn't they?
We go to Burgundy from House of Glory, who says, I love the guy screaming in the third row calling Kevin Owens a coward after he got DQ'd. Glad to see some people can just sit back and enjoy a wrestling show for what it's supposed to be, a wrestling show. I must say I really enjoyed the last man standing match. Just goes to show if you book someone to their strengths, they can create really effective characters.
We go to Chupacabra from Delaware. Really want to see Jericho win the United States title. That championship should be on someone who showcases it and brings it prestige, not someone who's busy going after the Universal title. Very wasted on Reigns.
Will Jericho really showcase the U.S. title, though? The guy's in the main event mix. I don't see him defending it all that much.
No, you have this conundrum because of this depth of talent and the necessary use of these talents that you have. Essentially, it comes down to two options. You either have this U.S. title that's on your Rusev level guys, and it kind of just floats there in the middle of the show, and it's not focused all that much, or you put it on a top guy that needs to be in main event matches, and that's the problem they have. It's on a top guy, but he's not going to be in his own U.S. title scenarios because he's needed in that main event scene.
Yes. I feel like, though, ideally, you have that second tier belt on somebody who's really catching fire but hasn't really interacted with the main event mix yet. And I'm thinking, not necessarily a Rusev, but a guy like a Braun Strowman who, has had little interactions with Reigns and whoever, but hasn't really had a championship match yet, but has the potential to beat the guy. So I feel like a belt on somebody like a Braun Strowman, a U.S. title on somebody like a Braun Strowman can still be effective if he's just beating guys every week and showing that, the U.S. champion could potentially beat the world champion. He just hasn't been given a chance yet. But I don't know. I feel like it's a model that's really broken right now.
He's also asking, was Owens and Goldberg a preview for things to come? Could that be
There are a lot of ways
possible?
It can go. I mean, what's Goldberg's deal?
Well, we know he's doing the Rumble, and we know he's doing WrestleMania, and I would be surprised if he doesn't do the February pay-per-view.
Yeah. And do you know how many dates he has? I guess that can always change if they want him more.
Yeah, that will be up in the air based on how this all goes.
See, my other question is, we still haven't really seen this guy wrestle a match yet. You know, we don't know how well his body can hold up. Can he do a 30-minute match with a Kevin Owens? You know, with a very physical style.
What if he beats Owens in 2 minutes?
That'd be tragic. But
that would be a whole episode of Take It to the Table. Bring it to the table, whatever. That would be the whole meal at the table.
Wow. Yes.
Did he bury? Some people would say he buried Kevin Owens. When are we going to talk about people being buried?
Well, are they going to stop watching? Can you just do the whole Paul Heyman reaction for all these hypotheticals, please?
We need that soundbite on this show, and we'll just use it for any time you and I make a criticism. I'm going to put that soundbite in. Yes. Be our new X Factor. Okay.
It's my turn. We go to MJ from NJ, who says, cool final segment and interesting to see Goldberg face-to-face with 3 guys I'd like to see him have matches against, Owens, Roman, and Braun. I add Braun because I think he really does have something. I don't know where he will wind up, but he does little things each week that show me real improvement, like taking the mic from Heyman tonight. Bring It to the Table has huge potential. I think they need to work out the format, but a show hosted by a well-established mainstream personality and smart guests like JBL and Heyman is gold. More sports talk shows like this is what the network needs to evolve. Are JBL and Heyman the permanent guests?
I don't know.
I can't think so. I would have to.
To be honest, I don't know who else you would put in that role.
Well, that is my question. I think for one thing, Daniel Bryan would be a very interesting person to have on because of all the people to speak, you would count on to speak their minds. I feel like he would be one guy. But I'm trying to think who some of the lame duck people might be. Man, maybe Eva Marie. Love to get her thoughts.
Eva Marie and Daniel Bryan?
Oh, yes.
Maybe that's where Emelina can go.
Oh, okay.
Jamil from Brampton decided to watch Raw live tonight and ended up falling asleep a bunch of times. Only thing really that consistently kept me awake was Owens and Jericho. That ending segment was painful to watch, and if that is the title picture for the foreseeable future, I know I'll be sleeping a lot more. So I guess Raw is now the home of shitty big men in the title picture, and SmackDown has the wrestling. P.S. Cleveland has some excellent places to eat. Melt, Happy Dog, and finish it off with a brew at the Side Quest.
Good to know.
Yeah. Would have been great to know in September when we were there.
Yeah.
And what time do these places close at?
Probably 8 o'clock at night.
Yeah.
We got a Bill and Alex finally, who were
the sign people.
Our sign people. Thank you again very much, Bill and Alex. We were at the show tonight and thought it was a good show. The best match of the night was the last man standing match. Not sure how it came across on TV, but in the arena it was amazing. The final segment was excellent and funny. I love seeing Steph as well. Unlike other years, the Royal Rumble seems to be able to go in many different directions while still having interesting storylines come for the ones who lose. Do you think WWE will go with Jericho winning the belt to split up Jericho? Say at Money in the Bank with Jericho winning the case. That's also another possibility. Our preference is for the match to happen at Mania. What do you think?
I think the match is going to happen at Mania. I don't think it's a foregone conclusion that it'll be the title program, though. And I got that sense even more tonight when you're teasing stuff with Goldberg. I think that there's still a possibility you could have Goldberg and Lesnar end up as the title program.
Mm-hmm.
But you certainly have that built-in story of Jericho winning the Rumble and going that direction. But the fact they called it out so blatantly tonight, I almost would have preferred if you were going to go that direction to kind of just a subtle look by Kevin Owens would have gone so much further, and that everyone at home would piece that together and be looking at the Rumble that, wow, if Jericho wins this, what does that mean for him and Owens? And instead, you just nailed it over the head with a hammer with Owens' reaction tonight.
Yeah, I think a lot of ways that can go with it. You could also have Jericho somehow cost Owens the championship.
Yep.
A lot of ways they can go if, their main intent is to build the most attractive WrestleMania card possible. Maybe these two are hot enough that they don't need the title. Maybe another program, let's say a bigger program, could use that extra boost to make it a bit more of a mainstream program. Because, as much as we love Jericho and Owens, I would say those two facing off each other is not going to mean the same thing as, say, Brock Lesnar versus Goldberg or John Cena versus The Undertaker even, not to a mainstream crowd. And so you have to look at it from that perspective and say, is the belt best served here or is it best served, let's say, on Goldberg versus Brock Lesnar or Undertaker Cena, whoever.
All right, well, that is going to bring an end to Review-A Raw. Coming up this week, myself and Wai will be back on Wednesday with Review-A-Smackdown. What's Next is off this week, as there's not a new episode of NXT, but we are going to have lots of shows, including Thursday. We've got the MMA Report, which is the annual prediction show with Ariel Helwani joining me. We've also got the debut episode of British Audio Wrestling this week. And Friday is Japanese Audio Wrestling with reviews of Wrestle Kingdom and New Year Dash, not to mention episode 2 of Keep It 2000. And that leads in to the Law Sunday night at 11 p.m. Eastern with the worst of 2016, following our best of 2016 show, which is up now at liveaudiowrestling.com. So Wai,
wow,
your vacation is set.
Geez, I'm so excited. There's every show is good. Every show is good. I'm not even just saying that. I'm actually really looking forward to British Audio Wrestling, especially. Are they doing like a bit of a setup for the?
Their first episode. I think it's going to be kind of like an overview of kind of just some of the different promotions and just kind of an introductory show. And then they will be back after the WWE's UK tournament, chatting about those shows later this month.
Cool.
So that's gonna be a monthly show similar to Japanese Audio Wrestling, which will be continuing with Chris Charlton beyond this week as well.
Very
and
nice.
he'll be at the Tokyo Dome with WH. So if any of you listeners are in Tokyo or going to Wrestle Kingdom, you can say hello to the host of Japanese Audio Wrestling and get a photo with WH Park.
Yes, and a thank you to WH.
Yeah, two teams associated with Japanese wrestling that will be having their last shows together. Chris Charlton and WH Park, and Kevin Kelly and Steve Corino, who are in Japan to call the shows this week in English for New Japan World. So that's going to wrap it up. LiveAudioWrestling.com. And you can follow us at Law Radio on Instagram. Buy a shirt at ProWrestlingTees.com/law. And that is it. We will chat with you on Wednesday. Good night.
Especially with Lesnar getting Taker, his beating the streak at Mania and having that happen, that really kind of threw it off. I thought that kind of took away from that.
So they're going to boycott?
Probably not.
So it's just people bitching, moaning, and complaining.
Well, that's what people do on the internet.
So let them.
That's exactly what they do.